Hi there, it's Abigail from the Creative Bix, and in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this paper cut artwork that says love. The canvas size I'm using is 3000 pixels by 3000 pixels at 300 dpi. To make my background, I'm going to color fill an entire layer and then add another layer on top to continue. Now I'm going over to the wrench tool and clicking add text to add the word I would like, and I'm going to type the word love, and the font I'm using is the Coachella font. And from here, I'm actually going to make it a little bit bigger, but what I decided is I would like it to be stacked on top of each other in kind of a square shape. And then I'm just going to make it bigger and center it to the screen by using snapping. Now I'm just choosing to rasterize this layer just so it makes it a little bit easier to work with. And I'm going to duplicate this layer 5 times. From here, I'm going to alpha lock the lower 5 layers by swiping right on each layer with 2 fingers. Now choose what colors you would like each layer to be, and you're going to tap that layer, and under the menu that pops up you want to click Fill Layer. And you can choose different colors for every single layer beneath. From here I'm going to duplicate each layer. So I'm going to make a double pink layer, a double darker pink layer, a double coral layer, a double orange layer, and a double yellow layer. And I almost forgot, but you also want to duplicate that top white layer. With the bottom layer of each color, I'm going to fill those layers with black. Now we want to be able to show the layers, so I'm going to tap once on that light pink layer and then swipe right on the black layer beneath it and tap the move tool, and I'm going to move that layer down just a little bit to show the difference between the pink layer and that white layer. And then we're going to do that with every single layer below. So I'm going to tap that dark pink layer and then swipe right on the black layer so that I can move them together at the same time. And I'm going to move them slightly below the lighter pink layer. Then tap on the coral layer and swipe right on the black layer beneath it. Slide that down a little bit lower and then continue with the orange and yellow layers as well. And just to make sure that everything stays in line while I move it, I have magnetics turned on under snapping. Now we want to create a shadow, and to do that we want to unalpha lock all of those layers. So I'm going to swipe right again with 2 fingers on those black layers to undo alpha lock, and then I'm going to click on Gaussian blur and slide my pencil to the right, and we're going to blur it about 6%. So on all those black layers we want to make sure they're unalpha locked, tap Gaussian blur, and we're going to blur them to 6%. And at the top you can see that blue slider, and then you can see the percentage of how much you blur. As you drag your pencil to the right, it'll blur more, and if you drag it back to the left, it'll unblur it a little bit. So I just have it at a very small setting for this. Okay, so now we want to show that the light is coming from a certain place and that it casts a shadow. So I'm going to swipe right on all of those black layers, and that way we can move them as a group. And I'm just going to slightly move it to the right a little bit, and it shows that it's a little bit darker on the right side and the light is coming from the left. And now that I see it, I think those shadows are just a little bit too intense. So on those black layers, I'm going to change the opacity to be about 53%. Once you've done that, it's time to add some texture. So on top of all of the color layers, we're going to add a blank layer, and I'm going to change that blend mode to overlay. And then just to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to duplicate that overlay layer multiple times, enough just to put over every single color layer. And then I'm just going to move those overlay layers right on top of those color layers so that they'll be able to be clipped easily. And then, whoops, I don't think I need that top layer, so I'm going to delete that. And then I'm just going to clip every single layer to those color layers below. And I also have a blank layer above my background color layer, and I'm going to change the blend mode of that to overlay as well. So to add texture, I'm going to be using brushes I purchased from Uproot Brushes by Abbie Nurse. They're her overlay brushes, and they're absolutely amazing for giving a realistic texture. And I'm going to be using the bumpy paper overlay brush for those layers above the letters. And I'm realizing that that white letter layer will not show texture, so I'm changing it to be a little bit more cream colored. And now I'm just going to go back to those clipping masks on top of every single layer, and I'm going to add those textures. Now all that's left to do is to add texture to the background. Tapping on the layer right above the background color, I'm going to use the canvasy brush to add another texture to my piece. And that's it! If you're inspired or you want to make this your own, tag me on Instagram so I can see your recreations at The Creative Bix.